First and foremost, just a disclaimer. This is for entertainment purposes only. I am not a professional. Please seek the help of a professional if you want to inquire deeper into these, I guess, categories and subjects. Beyond that, this is also being done under the fair use law regarding YouTube. But with that, let's get into the video and see what we can learn.
Stop lighting candles. Just stop.
So as you can see, the video title here, the Blackout First Hour Checklist. I just personally want to delve into it with my own personal opinions. Like I said, this is just for entertainment purposes only. However, I do personally think that there was some dangerous content within this video, and I would just like to debunk it and bring some possible, I guess, reminders as to what may work. But like I said, I highly advocate people look into it themselves to get the proper instruction.
First hour of a blackout isn't about comfort. It's about 11 decisions that civilians miss and veterans execute on autopilot.
So he says to stop lighting candles, within the first bit of a blackout. There's nothing wrong with lighting candles. In fact, it's a wise tactic, especially that's why if he wants to talk about people involved in the military, I personally know some people that actually stockpile candles, those particularly candles that can burn for a very long time. Flashlights require batteries and such, so candles are a very efficient light source when needed. They're also an ignition source for starting fires when needed. Candles are not a bad idea to have around.
Field logistics teaches this. The first 60 minutes decide whether day 3 is inconvenient or dangerous. There's one action I'll get to at the midpoint, done inside the first 15 minutes, that turns your water heater into a 48-hour thermal reserve most people.
This is what worries me about this channel. I am sorry, sir, but like I said, under the YouTube fair use law and such, sometimes the big thing you point out at the beginning of your videos turns out to be one of the most dangerous things you advise people to do, and it usually has to do around water. We will get into it later.
Waste.
And I can promise you, a military trained veteran or personnel would probably not do this.
11 actions. $0 required. Let that land. Action 1. Write down the exact time, to the minute, on paper. Most people grab their phone and check Twitter. That is the civilian mistake. Prepared people log the minute the lights went dark. Every food safety decision for the next 72 hours anchors to that timestamp.
I gotta give credit where it's due, though. That's not a bad idea. Start logging things.
A full freezer holds safe temperature for 48 hours unopened. Half full, 24. Without a start time, you're guessing. Write this down. Guessing is how people eat spoiled meat on day 3 and end up in an ER running on generator backup.
Guessing is also how people get, stomach-borne illnesses and such due to bacteria, but we'll get into that later.
Time elapsed, 1 minute. Action 2. Check the breaker panel before you assume grid failure. 30 seconds. Flashlight, main panel. Eyes on the double pole main breaker. The civilian mistake is assuming every dark house is a regional event. The prepared buyer confirms first. If your main tripped and the neighbor's porch light is on, you're in a repair call, not a crisis. If the street is dark, you have a real event. One answer changes everything that follows. 30 seconds of confirmation saves 6 hours of wasted energy. Time elapsed, 2 minutes. Action 3. Phone to low power mode, brightness to minimum.
That's not a bad piece of advice. Yeah, it's always just, obviously, that's kind of essential. Just make sure that your neighbor's power is off too, especially if you're in a rural area.
One text to your people, not a call. Most people burn 30% of battery in the first hour scrolling for news and placing calls that won't connect. Prepared people text once and ration. Cell towers overload in the first 15 minutes of any regional event. Texts queue and deliver. Calls drop. Low power mode cuts drain roughly in half.
That's why I'll say one really handy gadget is actually just having a power backup. Just a small one is good. It can be a lifesaver when you're out and about and your phone's battery's just about dead.
A 70% battery on low power lasts 18 hours. The same battery on default dies by sunset. That phone is your radio, map, and light. Time elapsed, 4 minutes.
To rely on your phone as a radio, map, and light, never do that. Yeah, unless you absolutely have to. But yeah, it's always good to have the real things, obviously. That's why candles are good.
Action 4. Fill the bathtub, the sinks, every pitcher, every pot. Stay with me. Do this in the first 10 minutes, not the first hour. Municipal water pressure depends on electric pumps at tower stations. Most towers have 4 to 6 hours of gravity reserve. After that, pressure drops. Taps run brown, then dry. Hurricane Harvey, 2017. Households that filled the tub in the first hour had drinking and toilet flush water for a week. The ones who waited too long. A standard bathtub holds 50 to 80 gallons. That is the expensive mistake to miss. Time elapsed, 14 minutes. 4 actions in. 14 minutes invested.
That's also very good advice. You definitely want to fill up a bathtub. However, one warning I will give when it comes to drinking and such, after about 24 hours, you do want to start boiling that water. And I'm going to get into a magic number when it comes to boiling. A thermostat is very good to have. And you want to boil your water at 212. It's an easy number to remember. You want to make sure your water hits 212 degrees. That kills absolutely everything. There's some very stubborn viruses and bacteria out there. And there's actually bacteria that thrive in warmer water. And we'll get into that later in the video here.
You're already ahead of 90% of your street. Already ahead of 90% of your street. Action 5. Remember the action I teased at the top? This is the one I've been holding. Walk to your water heater. In the first 15 minutes, that tank still holds 40 to 50 gallons of water.
This is also one of the most dangerous ones.
At 120 degrees Fahrenheit. A standard residential water heater loses roughly 2 degrees per.
Okay, one thing we have to remember is 120 degrees Fahrenheit. Yes, that's hot, but it's not hot enough to like kill bacteria. So it's hot water. It's good in that sense, but just keep that in mind.
Hour without power. By hour 24, it's a lukewarm tank you'll drain cold. Read that again. 40 gallons of hot water evaporating as a resource, unless you move it. Fill every thermos, every insulated travel mug, every vacuum-sealed container you own from the kitchen tap while it's still hot. A quality stainless thermos holds heat 24 hours. Let that land. That's
Okay, this is where this turns actually into a trap. I'll explain in a bit here. It's not a bad idea to utilize that water, but I'll explain something very important here.
coffee tomorrow. A warm bath for a child on night 2. Sterile temperature water for wound cleaning. Historical anchor.
That water is not sterile for a wound. Like I said, you have to have water up to 212 degrees, 212, for it to kill all the nasty stuff. And in fact, lukewarm water, like I said, is a breeding ground for bacteria.
Texas Winter Storm 2021. Families who harvested hot water in the first hour stayed warm. The ones who didn't boiled water over camp stoves by day 3. Time elapsed, 25 minutes. Actions.
Okay, that's where I'm getting at. So if you're putting just lukewarm water into thermostats and whatnot, as soon as that has air exposure and you're closing those lids and whatnot, yes, it can be good for a day or two, but if you're holding on to that for the long term, you may get sick from that water. That's about the time frame when water starts to, breed bacteria and whatnot. It's just Reddy's law, and it's in every science textbook out there. Just look it up. Like, military veterans would not do that. As soon as it's past 24 hours, or you might be able to get away past 24 hours, but 2 days at most, you need to start boiling your water again, especially if you put it into a thermostat and let it have air exposure, obviously, in that time frame. So, yes, you please reboil your water after day 2 if you ever find yourself in this situation.
6. Consolidate the freezer and tape it shut. Move anything from the fridge that can survive cold into the freezer. Wrap the door with duct tape. Not to seal it, but as a visual stop sign for kids, guests, anyone who forgets. A full, unopened freezer holds food safely for 48 hours. Half empty, 24. Every opening cuts 4 to 6 hours off that window. Most families lose $300 of food in the first 12 hours because they keep checking on it. You don't need to see the food to know it's there. Time elapsed, 32 minutes. Action 7. Top off the car.
That's not a bad idea. And a lot of people don't know that a lot of food that, you think you need to keep in your fridge, like vegetables and fruits, they're still fine if they freeze. Like, yeah, once they start on thawing, they're not going to be good. But the trick is to prepare them the right way. You want to boil them. You want to start making soups and such out of the vegetables. Because, yes, obviously, once they start to unthaw, like carrots and such, unless they're blanched, then, yeah, they go rotten very quickly. So, no, that is a good trick. You do want to preserve things in the freezer.
Before the gas stations die. Fuel pumps are electric. Within 30 minutes of a regional blackout, pumps lock and lines form at the few stations on generator power. Within 2 hours, those are empty too. If your tank is below 3/4, move now. Gas fuels generators, evacuation, and, if the house gets dangerous, a heated charging shelter on 4.
Ironically, these people, made a video in tow with this situation, and basically advise you that the gas stations are very dangerous and are gonna black out then, which is very true. People, when they get desperate, they get silly. I've seen it firsthand. My city lost power a couple years back, and people are almost fighting over Tim Hortons. It was absolutely crazy. As a Canadian, you understand how ridiculous that is, but as to how real it is too.
Wheels. One full tank runs a modern.
I guess what I'm saying is, one thing a lot of people don't do is food storage is always a good idea, but storage is good as well. And you always want to cycle through your storage. Keep it for a week, but then use it up because, yes, gas will go stale. Just keep it in rotation. But you definitely want enough where you can travel at least, a full tank can get you most vehicles 400 kilometers or so. That's pretty ideal to get to somewhere if you really need to. It's just good to have a big jerry can full.
Car heater at idle for roughly 36 hours. Do the math. Time elapsed, 42 minutes. Action 8. Pull cash while the ATM network still responds.
Regarding the vehicle trick there, that it's good, but believe it or not, even when it's very cold out, if you're sitting in a vehicle for too long, carbon monoxide will build up even if, you assume that everything is just passing by. You do eventually want to crack a window or open a door once in a while, and yes, some heat will escape, but it's a good point in the winter that saved lives. But you do have to be very aware of carbon monoxide. Now, this trick, oh, this is a dangerous one. I'm going to get into this here.
Most ATMs run on battery backup for 2 to 4 hours after grid loss. After that, the card reader is a brick. Credit terminals at any store still open. Same story. Cash is the only currency that works in hour 5. $200 in 20s covers a tank of gas, a night in a motel one stayed over, or supplies from a vendor selling by candlelight. The civilian taps the phone. Prepared people carry paper. Time elapsed, 50 minutes. 8 actions in, 50 minutes on the clock.
Okay, it's a good point. You want to hold on to cash, but you never want to have to go out and get it when there's a blackout. It's statistically proven. Anyone could look this up in any country. When there's a blackout, especially at nighttime, criminals absolutely thrive in the dark, and they will sit by ATMs and whatnot, and it's very dangerous. Like I said, might not even be criminals. It's just desperate people. They don't know how serious the situation is, etc., and it could lead to some pretty bad stuff.
3 actions left.
Sorry, I had to pause it for a second, but yes, criminals. People get silly when the power's out, and one of the most dangerous things you can do is go to a money vendor. You don't be surprised if it's in an isolated area that there's some people lurking there and just waiting for opportunity.
Final 10 minutes separate the prepared from the panicked. Action 9. Unplug everything with a circuit board. TV, computer, modem, gaming console, microwave. Now pay attention to this one. The danger isn't the blackout. The danger is the restoration. When the grid returns, it rarely returns clean. Power surges on restoration show documented voltage spikes 2 to 6 times normal in the first 90 seconds. That spike fries capacitors in anything plugged in. The 2003 Northeast blackout cost households
I gotta admit, that's a very good tip.
hundreds of millions in fried electronics. Not during the outage, during the restoration. Trained eyes see the surge before it arrives. Time elapsed, 54 minutes. Action 10. Battery-powered radio, AM band, local news frequency. Your phone tells you what Twitter thinks. AM radio tells you what emergency management is actually doing. Let that sink in.
That's also a very good hint. Yes, listen to your radio. Do not go buy anything on the internet. It's great having just a local radio. It's by law they have to tell you the truth.
AM signals travel farther than FM and penetrate buildings better. A single $10 hand crank radio reaches stations 200 miles out on a clear night. Local emergency broadcasts carry shelter locations, boil water notices, curfews, and restoration windows that no social feed carries accurately. Hurricane Katrina, 2005. Households with working AM radios knew the levees had failed 6 hours before the ones without. Information is oxygen. Time elapsed, 57 minutes.
My tea's gone cold.
Is oxygen. Time elapsed.
I gotta admit, that's also a very good tip there.
57 minutes. Action 11. Walk the perimeter before the sun goes down. Lock every door. Lock every window. Close the garage. Move one flashlight to the nightstand, one to the kitchen, one to the bathroom.
See, that's why it's good to have candles. And obviously with the flashlights, yes, don't leave them on. I think what they're getting at is it's good to have the flashlights there just in case. It's good to have points of, yes, like, yeah, it's a good idea to have a flashlight in different areas if you need.
This action separates a calm night from a bad one. Property crime rises sharply in the first 12 hours of any regional blackout.
That's right. That's why you do not want to go around an ATM either.
Documented pattern across Katrina, Sandy, and the 2003 Northeast event. You are not paranoid. You are early. A locked door in minute 59 is the reason you sleep in minute 300.
One thing I'll add to that as well is don't be afraid to brace your doors. Well, if a door is braced and people try to get in, they know that someone's behind it, and You know, if they say something like "let me in" or whatever, don't say anything. That's probably one of the most intimidating things. If you show fear or interest, they'll probably just go on because they probably know that you're sitting there prepared, right? So, but yes, make sure your doors and windows are locked. That's a very good tip. But bracing them goes a lot further.
That's not theory. That's documented. Time elapsed 60 minutes, 1 hour, 11 actions, $0 spent. Confirm, contain, communicate. That's the 3-word spine of the first hour when the grid goes dark. You're not panicking, you're executing. You walked into minute 1 knowing the lights were off. You walked out of minute 60 with water.
You gotta love AI art sometimes. There was like a radio with like a candle in the last image there, but this video is actually not bad. You know, there's some decent tips here.
Fuel, cash, communications, and a sealed house. Don't wait for the blackout to rehearse this list.
Okay, the only thing that I'm really concerned about here is obviously the water and the cash part. Always have like as much as you can afford, you know, quite a bit. I'd say it has to be in the 3-digit mark, in my opinion. It's good to have just spare cash on hand for an emergency because yes, then things like this happen and the world will keep turning around you in that meantime.
Print it.
And obviously one of the biggest tips, I've heard of this happening in some places, but one thing I will say about the cash tip is keep small bills. Okay. You know, people aren't having their bank vendors come and go with change and stuff. Keep bills and keep a lot of coins because yes, you're going to probably have to buy things right on the dot. If you just have $1,000 in hundreds, that's a very bad idea.
Keep it inside the pantry door. Walk the sequence once on a calm Sunday afternoon. Every adult in the house times themselves. The first time you run it under pressure should be the 5th time you've run it. Next video covers the 7 overlooked cold weather items every household above the 35th parallel should stage before.
All right. Well, I'm gonna look into this because living in Canada here, yeah, we've experienced some cold weather, and I've camped in the winter as well. But yeah, it wasn't a bad video. I appreciate SafeMind for contributing the work here, and I hope we all had a entertaining time reflecting on it. But with that, like I said, I am not a professional. This is just for entertainment purposes only. And please educate yourself in the guidance of a professional if you have any further inquiries regarding these matters. But with that, stay safe and thank you.